Right now, as you listen to this, your brain is actually likely running a hidden background app that is, silently draining your energy.
Oh, absolutely. It's running nonstop.
Yeah, and you use it every time you walk into a room or order a coffee or jump on a Zoom call. It's just this incredibly demanding algorithm.
Right. Calculating just a dozen variables at
Yes,
once.
exactly. It's constantly asking, like, am I standing weirdly? Did that joke land? Is my voice too loud? Do they think I'm competent?
The fear of judgment app.
Yes. The
Yeah.
fear of judgment app. And for most of us, I mean, it is running from the moment we wake up until the moment we go to sleep, completely exhausting our emotional battery.
It really is a massive metabolic drain. I mean,
Hmm.
the human brain consumes about 20% of our body's energy overall, right?
Right, which is huge.
And a really huge portion of that is dedicated specifically to social navigation. When you are constantly simulating how other people perceive you, you're running these high-level predictive models in your prefrontal cortex nonstop.
Oh, wow. So it's literal physical energy being burned.
Totally. And it leaves you with almost no cognitive bandwidth to actually experience the interaction you're supposedly having.
Which brings us to the core of today's deep dive. We are looking at a source text that zeroes in on one of the most universally desired, but, frequently misunderstood skills out there.
Feeling comfortable around people.
Exactly. And what makes this specific text so fascinating isn't that it offers some, I don't know, complex 10-step psychological matrix.
Right, it doesn't do that at all.
No, in fact, it is written in remarkably easy to understand English. It just strips away all the jargon and proposes this profound psychological shift, which is just the radical act of simply allowing yourself to be at ease.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because in a world of total information overload, the source's use of clear, simple language perfectly mirrors its core message.
Oh, that's a great point.
Yeah, it shows that human connection doesn't require complexity. I mean, it just requires calmness. The premise is deceptively straightforward.
It really is. Like, before we can even get into the benefits, we have to understand what it actually defines as comfort.
Right, which means dismantling a massive misconception right off the bat.
Yeah. The text explicitly states that being comfortable around people does not mean being perfect. Instead, it defines it simply as feeling calm enough to be yourself.
What's fascinating here is the juxtaposition of perfect versus calm. It's the foundation of everything that follows in the text.
I mean, trying to be perfect in a conversation is, it's like wearing a very expensive, very stiff suit.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Right, sure, you might look absolutely flawless, but you can't actually move or breathe. Why is being perfect such a huge barrier to, like, actually listening carefully?
Well, because perfection is an external metric. It requires you to accurately guess the expectations of the person you're talking to and then flawlessly execute a performance to meet those imaginary expectations.
Which sounds exhausting.
It is.
Hmm.
Calmness, on the other hand, is an internal metric. You only have to regulate your own nervous system.
Yeah, I can give you a painfully specific example of how this plays out because I actually lived it.
Oh, do tell.
A few years ago, I had this networking meeting with a producer I desperately wanted to work with. I mean, I wanted to project total flawless competence.
Of course, the stiff suit.
Exactly, the psychological sniff suit. I spent the whole morning researching his past projects, memorizing his interviews, drafting these incredibly smart questions.
You were entirely focused on the presentation.
100%. So I sit down at the coffee shop, and the entire time he was talking, I wasn't actually hearing a single word he said.
You were just waiting for your turn to speak.
Yes, I was just staring at his mouth, waiting for a pause so I could deploy one of my, preloaded, heavily rehearsed questions.
Oh, there.
Yeah, and at one point he mentioned his dog had just died. And because I was so focused on my internal script, I just nodded and immediately asked him about his Q3 production schedule.
Oh, that is brutal.
The look he gave me, I mean, it haunts me to this day. I looked flawless on paper, but I functioned like a robot. I couldn't move, I couldn't adapt, and I certainly couldn't connect.
Well, that is the perfect illustration of what happens when your cognitive load just maxes out.
Mm.
In psychology, we talk about working memory capacity.
Right, like how much data you can hold at once.
Exactly. Historically, we thought the brain could hold about 7 items in its short-term memory, but modern research suggests it's actually closer to 3 or 4.
Only 3 or 4, that's not a lot.
No, it's really not. So when you're wearing that stiff suit, you are using all 4 of those slots to manage your performance. Slot 1 is monitoring your posture. Slot 2 is policing your tone of voice.
Right, like making sure I don't sound nervous.
Yes. And slot 3 is analyzing their micro-expressions. And slot 4 is drafting your next brilliant sentence.
Leaving literally 0 slots available to process what they're actually saying to you.
Precisely. You stop internal rehearsal. The text notes that when you drop the goal of perfection, you decrease that cognitive load. You have the mental bandwidth to actually listen carefully.
And the speaking naturally part, which the text also mentions, that just follows, right? Because you aren't frantically editing your next sentence.
Yeah, the silence in your own head allows the other person's words to reach your auditory processing centers. You finally have the bandwidth to hear them.
If I had been calm with that producer, I would have had the bandwidth to hear the sadness in his voice. My natural response would have been human empathy, not a weird pivot to his Q3 schedule.
Right, and that lack of empathy is what destroys the ability to build stronger relationships. A relationship requires reciprocal vulnerability.
Yeah, you have to actually be there in the moment.
Exactly. When you're performing, you're fundamentally withholding your true self. And the other person's brain detects this incongruence subconsciously. They know you're managing the interaction, not participating in it.
So if you're listening to this, think about a time you tried way too hard to be impressive versus a time you just allowed yourself to be calm. The difference is night and day.
It really is.
So we've established that comfort equals calmness rather than perfection. But now we move to how this internal state dramatically shifts our external reality.
The external ripple effect.
Yes. The text outlines why it matters. It says that relaxed people communicate with more clarity and warmth. This allows them to express ideas, make friends, work in teams, and face challenges with greater confidence.
It's a really powerful progression.
It is, but I want to push back slightly on the text here. It pairs the words clarity and warmth.
Okay, what's your hesitation there?
Well, we usually think of clarity as this rigid intellectual trait, like a sharp executive. And warmth is this soft emotional trait. How does just being relaxed somehow give us both at the exact same time?
That's a great question. We have to differentiate between active relaxation and sheer apathy. Apathy destroys clarity. But the text is talking about engaging the parasympathetic nervous system.
The rest and digest state.
Exactly. When you are socially anxious, your sympathetic nervous system, the fight-or-flight response, is highly active. It floods your body with adrenaline and cortisol.
Which feels terrible.
And physically, that tension constricts your vocal cords. It makes your voice higher and thinner. It causes shallow breathing, forcing you to rush your words before you run out of air.
Oh, right. So that tension literally destroys your clarity. Your message gets all muddled.
Yes. Relaxation strips away that nervous static. Intellectually, when you aren't panicking, your brain can access your vocabulary more efficiently, too.
Like when you know a word, but stress makes you forget it. The tip of the tongue thing.
Exactly that. Stress blocks retrieval pathways. Relaxation opens them back up. Hence, clarity.
Okay, so that explains clarity. What about warmth?
Well, tension also triggers a defensive posture. Biologically, when you feel threatened, even just by social judgment, you protect your vital organs. You cross your arms, your shoulders hunch, your face freezes.
They become a fortress. You just look unapproachable.
Right. But when you relax, that defensive posture melts. Your body language opens, your facial expressions become dynamic. That responsiveness is what we perceive as warmth.
Oh, I see. So you don't have to consciously try to be clear and then consciously try to be warm. Relaxation just removes the blocks preventing you from doing both naturally.
Exactly. And the text points out this progression. It starts with expressing ideas, moves to making friends, then working in teams, and finally facing challenges.
It's a snowball effect.
It is. Basic comfort scales up to conquering complex life challenges. Take working in teams, for example.
Yeah, because we usually assume that if you have friends, you're good at teamwork, but any college group project proves that is entirely false.
So true. Teamwork requires the suppression of ego. Ego is the defense mechanism of the unrelaxed mind. If one person is wearing that stiff suit, they're protecting their own status.
They won't admit when they don't understand something. They'll shoot down ideas just to look smart.
Right. But if the team feels psychological safety, if they are calm enough to be themselves, they can freely share half-baked ideas, admit mistakes, and actually collaborate.
Which applies directly to everyday life. Whether you're prepping for a boardroom meeting or just navigating a crowded grocery store, reducing that interpersonal stress just makes life more enjoyable.
It removes the toll booth from every social interaction.
But the text doesn't stop at external stuff. It pivots to something deeply personal. Why it actually feels good on the inside.
The internal emotional landscape.
Yeah. It notes that when you are at ease, you worry less about judgment and feel more peaceful inside. You feel freer to smile, speak, and share thoughts.
Leading to genuine moments with a really wide spectrum of people.
Yes, the text explicitly lists family, friends, classmates, coworkers, and new people. And here's where it gets really interesting. Let's go back to that background app analogy.
The fear of judgment app.
Right. It's like an app draining your battery all day. When you force quit that worrying about judgment app, you suddenly have the energy to just smile and share your thoughts.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, looking at that specific list in the text family to new people, it's intentional. It spans from the most intimate to the completely unknown.
Which is funny because I think sometimes the app runs the hottest around my own family.
Oh, absolutely. Family systems theory supports that. We often perform more for our families because the stakes feel higher. You're navigating decades of historical expectations.
The pressure to play the role they gave you as a kid, the smart one, the messy one, whatever.
Right. The app is screaming, do not violate the family narrative. This is why the barrier to a genuine moment isn't how long you've known someone. It's the presence of judgment.
Wow. So you can have a deeply fake interaction with a sibling you've known your whole life if you're terrified of those unwritten rules.
Yes. And you can have a profoundly genuine moment with a complete stranger on a train because they have no historical expectations of you. You can just be yourself.
You literally cannot fake a genuine moment. It requires that freedom from judgment the text is describing.
It really democratizes connection. It's available anywhere if you drop the armor.
Okay, so understanding the why is super inspiring, but I'm sure you, listening right now, are wanting the how. And the source actually provides a highly practical four-part framework for building this comfort.
It proves this is a skill that can be developed. It's neuroplastic.
Let's dig into step one. Start small. The text says to talk to one person at a time because small conversations build confidence. But, I mean, society tells us confidence is about commanding a whole room.
Yeah, kicking open the door and holding court at a party.
Exactly. Why is the text telling us to isolate to just one person?
Because what you see in movies is the end result of a conditioned nervous system, not the starting point. When you walk into a room of 30 people, you face 30 unpredictable variables.
Which is way too much data for our 3 or 4 working memory slots.
Far too much. It triggers an immediate threat response. Trying to learn comfort in a crowded room is like trying to tune an acoustic guitar in the middle of a screaming rock concert.
You can't even hear the notes you're playing.
Exactly. By isolating variables, talking to one person, the interaction is manageable. It builds a foundational baseline of confidence without overwhelming your nervous system.
You survive the interaction and your brain updates its predictive model. Like, hey, we talked to a human and didn't die.
Right. That updated model is literally what confidence is.
But even one-on-one, there's the pressure of what to actually say. Which brings us to step 2. Accept imperfection. The text says you do not need perfect words. Sincerity matters more.
Sincerity is the ultimate antidote to the fear of judgment.
And it relates right back to the easy-to-understand English theme of this episode. Sincerity is the acoustic guitar. Perfect words are the overproduced synthesizer.
Oh, that's a brilliant way to put it.
Right. The produced pop song is mathematically perfect, but sterile. The acoustic track, where you hear the squeak of the fingers on the strings, that imperfection is what makes it resonate.
The imperfection is the proof of humanity. And neurologically, the brain processes sincerity differently than perfection. When you search for perfect words, you're trying to manipulate a reaction.
You're engineering the interaction.
Yes, but when you speak with sincerity, even if you stumble over your phrasing, the other person's mirror neurons fire in sympathy. Humans are incredible subconscious lie detectors.
We pick up on the script, the uncanny valley effect.
Exactly. Sincerity requires vulnerability. Allowing yourself to struggle slightly to find a word gives the other person permission to drop their own stiff suit.
It disarms the room. That is staggering. Our attempts to be perfect actually alienate people.
Perfection isolates. Sincerity connects.
Okay, so step 3. The text gives us a physical checklist. Use body language. Stand straight, breathe slowly, and make gentle eye contact.
This bridges the gap between psychology and biology.
So what does this all mean? I want you listening right now to do a real-time posture check. Are you slouching? Because when I read this, I kind of rolled my eyes. Every kindergarten teacher says stand straight. Why do we abandon this when we feel pressure?
Because under pressure, your biology is trying to save your life. Slouching makes you physically smaller. It's a submissive gesture from our evolutionary past.
We're hiding our soft underbelly from the dominant members of the tribe.
Right. Your brain is signaling, I'm not a sweat, please don't eat me.
So slouching at a networking event is literally our lizard brain trying to avoid a fight to the death.
Exactly. Standing straight overrides that evolutionary programming. Pulling your shoulders back tells your amygdala, I am choosing to be exposed because I am safe.
You trick your brain into confidence. What about breathing slowly? Because I hold my breath constantly when I'm stressed.
That's the apnea of anticipation. Again, fight or flight. Breathing slowly engages the diaphragm, which physically pulls on the vagus nerve.
The vagus nerve, I hear about that a lot. How does that work?
It's the superhighway between your brain and major organs.
Yeah.
Pulling on it releases acetylcholine, which is basically a natural tranquilizer for your heart rate.
Wow, so slow breathing physically prevents panic at a cellular level.
Yes, and that calmness allows for the third part.
Yeah.
Gentle eye contact.
Gentle being the key word, because unblinking staring is terrifying.
Exactly. Prolonged direct gaze is a threat display in nature. Gentle eye contact is an invitation. It involves softening the eyes, breaking the gaze naturally. It signals, I am present, but I'm not demanding anything.
It's welcoming. Okay, so we isolate variables, we choose sincerity, we override the lizard brain with posture and breathing. Sounds foolproof. But step 4 is a reality check. Keep going.
Confidence grows through repetition. Practice makes it feel natural.
Because knowing the mechanics doesn't instantly rewrite the code, my brain still wants to run the background app.
Right, because that anxiety pathway is a highly myelinated neural highway. Hebb's law says neurons that fire together wire together.
Years of anxiety have wired my brain to associate people with panic.
Yes. When you first try these new steps, breathing, accepting imperfection, it feels like hacking through a dense jungle with a machete.
It's awkward. You forget to breathe mid-sentence.
And that's where people quit. They say it doesn't feel natural. But natural doesn't mean you're born with it. It means you've practiced it so much it becomes second nature.
The brain starts laying down a new highway, the architecture literally changes.
Exactly. Keep going.
And when you do, we get the grand synthesis of the text. Being at ease opens doors in every part of life. It gives you confidence, calmness, and connection through patience and practice.
It really is the operating system for a fulfilling life. Every opportunity is gated by another human being.
Exactly. A job, a friendship, a smooth coffee order. Rewiring for calm removes the friction from existing in society.
This raises an important question, though.
No.
Yeah. We've seen that comfort isn't a personality trait you're born with. It's an accessible skill built through simple, imperfect practice. So for the listener, if you stop worrying about having the perfect words today, what specific, genuine connection is waiting right outside your door, ready to be made?
Wow. What happens if you just leave the stiff suit in the closet? Take a slow breath, force quit the fear of judgment app, and just see what happens. It's a staggering thought to carry with you today. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into human connection. We'll see you next time.